Well, your narrator, I think you're trying to tell me something, but this would be what it is. Like, let's get to the bottom of this. What meaning? All this. What is it? The reason why. Well, I'll just come out and say it because, like, a lot of these type of books and things that you'll find, right? Like they mention Adolf Hitler. But let's just say something right now. What goes on in our? Let me say something. When this whole political system in our country is like this, and when people aren't all as don't get to sit in political economy classes and then do this and then do that and then travel around. Now we're in a hotel. I mean, a lot of people like are desperate, don't know what's going on. The economy's wrecked. They look for things. Their perception of what is they don't know, but in the vague sense they understand. Like right? There's a transnational sector that there's a total. The prejudice towards financial capital has led to the point where there's no physical economy, and there's a finance sector that's even above the sort of stock investor. It's taking place at that high a level, and it's all financial activity and like currency trading, and is kind of like, I don't know, like the way it was like in the Middle Ages. Like there's sort of something similar to like what Venice was, but it's like it's just all over the place, and it's located. Okay, their perception is like, right, like they cause it. They don't know who's in that sector. Neither do I. But I don't know what like type of people they are. Certainly, like every. I mean, I don't know how you play in that sector. You can't go to school to be like the kind of person who operates at that level. I mean, that's a kind of thing like sort of different kind of people. I don't know who's in that sector, but right. I mean, why do people, people marching around like with anti-Semitic things and swastikas? Well, when people's lives are destroyed, they're taking a guess at who's in that sector. It doesn't really matter who it is, and I'm sure they're not one type of person or the other. But it certainly is why people in like prison, people in prison with like swastikas all over them and like and they're like, it's the Jews. I mean, because we don't know who's in the transnational financial sector. I don't know, but people's imaginations when they're desperate and feeling hatred and they're like reading about like how the German economy was structured. Well, it depends who's reading the words, right? They're like, it must be the Jews, like. Well, people come to conclusions. If they had high-paying jobs and went, and health care and things like that, they probably wouldn't be like wondering about the Jews. Like but when people, a lot of people don't realize. I'm telling you, I haven't been around overseas much, but I've been everywhere in our country, and I'm telling you, like it's like the Dust Bowl for most people. Yeah, so they speculate as to who might be in that sector that's like, you moving around billions of dollars of blocks of currency in and out of our country, like the government's powerless, like someone that's at the way top doing financial activity like that. Yeah, people really, people are like sitting, unemployed people sometimes, nothing to do, sitting around like, with bills racking up and maybe a sick, a teenage kid that you can't take to the doctor, right? Right. Then it's something going on in like the financial sector. So you start reading about like, oh, I didn't know about the bombing of Dresden, and I mean that's what happens. I mean that's where hatred comes from. But no, I mean in a functioning economy, like let me tell you, in Germany where they do have a functioning economy and like wages are high, what they do is like every time they're all like wackos who like walk around like with like hateful things, and they're known to be just defectives who can't fit in because it is a functioning society. So they just banned it and said, go out to the fucking woods and do that, because the truth is, like, we have a functioning economy and society. These must just be defectives that are like busy with their, hating on Jews or whatever. Like there's certainly this is a functioning society, but in this society, you can't blame people for coming to like irrational, hateful conclusions, especially because even I don't know who's in that sector we're talking about. Moving around billion-dollar blocks of currency and doing in strategic alliance with central banks and like, what kinds of people? I don't know, some kind of European person, or It's like you don't know who's in my sector, right? Like what kind of people do I know? Who's on my Facebook page? Who do I go to school with? Who are my people, right? You don't know. You may, if you're seeing this, they're showing this to someone like in like a I don't know where it's being shown, right? You don't know what kind of people are in my sector. Right. So you got people who are desperate and broke and everything. They know there's something going on in finance. They read a couple books about like this and that, and they're like, man, I don't know, like they come to conclusions that it must be Jews. But I don't know who's in that sector. Certainly in that sector, they could care less who you are and where you come from. Those are really wealthy families if you're dealing in that sector. But that also means you're spending a lot of time out of the country. It doesn't mean you're in America. They're probably, what the young people do of such people? Like, I don't know. Probably like do they probably own islands? And that's the kind of people that buy a whole island somewhere. And like go there and like be like, oh, my like trust fund just matured, so I bought an island. Like, I mean, it's a sector no one knows about. But if you're living in a fucking trailer park and you've got a daughter that needs cancer treatment, right? And like I mean, and there's no health care and there's no work. Yeah, you start to read about Adolf Hitler and like get into like you need. By the way, you do need someone to blame at that point. Like maybe someone, when your situation's that bad, you do look for who's causing this. Right? That's where you get this wave of anti-Semitism all over the place because they just like figure that's who's in that financial sector. But you could prevent that. People wouldn't be walking around thinking about like, is it the Jews? If they had work, high wages, health care. No, you got people. By the way, you also got people driving around with pocket constitutions and machine guns in their car. For what reason? No real reason. It's just these are the reactions you get when this has happened to our society. Where it has now, it's the gap between rich and poor is at the point where we should look into structural problems instead of like it says, move away from the temptations of like politics and talk like grown-ups and stop watching TV and the Jon Stewart show.